All right, it's 8 minutes before the top of the hour here on Morning Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's just shift our focus a little bit away from former President Jacob Zuma and focus on something very important as well. The Special Investigating Unit, or SIU, appeared before Parliament's Communication Portfolio Committee this past Tuesday to report on its work at the SABC. The unit is tasked to investigate maladministration and mismanagement of finances at the public broadcaster. Its work also include looking at contracts of goods or services procured by the SABC and also looking into losses suffered by the broadcaster as a result of mismanagement. The unit also informed the committee that it has issued a summon against its former Chief Operating Officer Hlaudi Motsoeneng of a sum of more than 21 million rand he owes the state broadcaster. Joining us now is Advocate Andy Mothibi. He is the head of the Special Investigating Unit. Advocate, good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good morning, Palisa, and good morning to the viewers.
Now, which period are we looking into these investigations?
We're looking at the period from November 2011 to date, to the date of the publication of the proclamation.
All right. So how have the investigations gone so far?
Right. We commenced our investigation, formal investigation, that is, shortly after the publication of the gazetting of the proclamation, which was the 1st of September 2017. And the team was at that time already ready to hit the ground and move forward with the formal investigation. We had commenced in the initial stages of the investigation with the gathering of documentation. There's a whole lot of documentation that we've gathered that requires analysis, and all that is in the process of being done, and some other investigative methodology that we have implemented, including the interview of various witnesses. So we are at the stage now where we are to invoke some of our powers in terms of our legislation, where we would hold formal interviews. And those formal interviews are almost akin to a hearing, where a person who is interviewed is allowed to have legal representation.
All right. So are you going to be calling on some witnesses? Is that what you say?
Yes, indeed. Following on the investigation that we've done, we've identified some of the witnesses that will be interviewed under oath. And by doing that, we will be able to elicit some of the evidentiary materials that is required to point and prove some of the allegations that are at hand.
All right. Are you able to tell us about those certain individuals, or for now you can't?
At this stage, as we indicated also to the parliamentary committee, we are cautious not to name individuals.
But it's people from the SABC itself.
Some are from the SABC, some are the whistleblowers who are outside of the SABC. So the cautionary note that I've made is that we wouldn't like at this stage to create any prejudice to any individual before we have completed the investigation.
All right. Now, you also made mention of documentation that you have to put together. And if I remember correctly, at around August last year, the chairperson of Scopa Tembagodi said that he was satisfied, he had a meeting with you, and a lot of ground was already covered. How much work has been covered? Are you also going to be looking into reports such as that of the Auditor General and that of the former Public Protector, Tulima Tonsela, where she was also doing her findings on the SABC when governance and ethics fail? That report.
Yes, indeed. We looked at the report of the Public Protector. We also looked at the reports of the Auditor General of South Africa. What we do is to, given the scope that we have to cover, on the Public Protector side, we know that there has been some investigation that were done. Public Protector mentioned the phase 1 and phase 2. So we wanted to ensure that the matters that we looked at would not in likelihood be covered in the phase 2 of the Public Protector's investigation. But because it has not commenced, that phase 2, we had to ensure that we interact with the Public Protector. So we are satisfied at this stage that the matters that we are looking at would not be covered by phase 2 of the Public Protector.
All right, so are you basically avoiding duplication of
we
reports
indeed avoid duplication at all times when we do our investigations.
Now, what shocked many South Africans is what came out of Parliament this morning, that you have summoned the former CEO of the SABC to pay back 21 million rand. Can you break down this number for us? How did you go about quantifying this number?
Right. As you would know, that the investigation that we do at all times, it's really evidence-driven. And at any particular point in time that we come across the evidence that points either to criminal litigation or to disciplinary hearing or civil litigation in this case, we then ensure that we put it through appropriate process, right? So for civil litigation, we put it through civil courts. For criminal prosecution, we put it through criminal prosecution process. And for disciplinary hearings, we then refer to the state institutions so that the officials can be disciplined and consequence management happens. So in this case, our evidence is that we have found that there was no legal basis for, number one, to break down the 21. It's broken down into an 11 million, and it's contained in our court documents, 11 million, which was supposedly for success fees for having procured a certain contract to SABC. And we have also quantified an amount of 10.7 million, which deals with damages that SABC may have suffered as a result of other irregular activities. And those irregular activities could relate to irregular appointments of employees in SABC.
All right. And I know that you plan to hand over the interim presidential report on the 31st of May this year. But how binding will the recommendations from this report be? Right.
Our timeline, yes, is that we would like to hand over the final report to the President by the end of May. And that our investigation, we've divided it into two phases because there's been a lot of allegations that come our way. It is our experience that once we kick off an investigation in any particular instance, state institutions, you find that the public becomes aware and they keep on approaching us with further allegations. So the area which we are focusing at now includes irregularities of appointments of employees, irregularities in procurement, commercial contracts, and also employment contracts.
So are you going to be making recommendations in that regard?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to
How binding will those recommendations?
Right.
We've run out of time. Sorry for rushing.
Okay. No, sorry about that. Our recommendations are such that we would expect the state institution to execute those. Remember, if they fail to execute, we then escalate. If in this case we refer to the SABC, we escalate to the board. If the board also assists, and then we also escalate to the executive authority.
But do you have your house in order? I mean, there were concerns that you're not able to carry out your mandate. Is everything in order now, Advocate? A quick one on this.
Yeah, I think those are perceptions that we are really working hard to dispel. Right. We have our house in order. We are able to execute our mandate as efficiently and effectively as is expected.
We have to leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. That was Advocate Mothibi giving an update on the work done by the Special Investigating Unit with regards to the SABC's maladministration and, of course, mismanagement of finances that nearly brought the broadcaster to its knees. It's just a little after 8 o'clock. It's time for your news.